Michael, are you ready? Michael, good to go? We'll call this meeting to order. Policy and governance. Roll call. Districts 1 and 3 are present. Properly posted on February 22nd of 2022. First item on the agenda is discussion possible action regarding approval of the minutes of February 15th and February 23rd of 2022. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion clearly passes. Item 2 is discussion possible action regarding the contract with Accenture for ARPA consultant and management services. This is probably one of those things, Mr. Blau, that we'd want all 3 districts present for and accounted for, and District 2 not being represented today. My understanding is they will be back in town tomorrow and able to meet tomorrow. Does that change anything or affect you, Chantel? Yeah. Tomorrow, it looks like the only public meeting we have scheduled is on the 4th. I'm good tomorrow morning.
I'm fine tomorrow morning, but
What's that?
I'm fine with tomorrow morning. And Chantel, I bugged you quite a bit during the ice storm, and I appreciate your responsiveness and all the work that you put into trying to at least get this in a format that we can, again, begin to review and make some suggestions. My understanding is that the Accenture folks are watching this meeting. Is that correct?
I have definitely let them know that there was a meeting today, and I have encouraged them to review or tune into all the YouTube streamings so they could be aware of discussions that we have and what's been approved to be changed in the contract.
And that's been the case with every meeting we've held to date to discuss this contract.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
They've either been requested to be present, been present, or are fully aware that these meetings are broadcast.
Yes.
So there is no lack of information on our part.
I don't believe that is the case.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
What's your pleasure? You're driving.
Let's. Do you have any other questions or anything? I mean, if you got questions that we could address now, and we could just recess till.
Well, you know, as you pointed out,
Either way.
three ways. I'll just say that some of it is just kind of my pickiness, where it still refers to the MSA when actually it's not. This is not an MSA. Where it refers to the. I mean, for instance, page 2 or section 2 on page 1 in the warranty section. The 6th line, it says this MSA or any SOW will not materially violate. Well, having the SOW listed, it in my mind doesn't need to be there because the statement of work is an addendum. It's an attachment to this, and an agreement controls. So I think that can come out. It says MSA. It's just an agreement. That is in 2 places in section 2. I think you were going to ask them about the section 2, the 30-day notice and the 45-day notice that is in section 3. We were going to seek clarification on why the difference there.
Yes.
Okay. Section 4, for instance, in my mind, it currently reads payment must be a set amount and shall be made within 30 days. I don't know why it must be a set amount, and I think it should just read payment shall be made within 30 days of the county's receipt of a valid invoice. I mean, I can keep going, but
watching. These are things that they can address between now and us reconvening. I would
5
suggest
point,
keep going.
yeah. I had a question on 5.2. Says effective upon final payment, and then there's language in parentheses that is including any license fee specified in the SOW. I was unable to locate that, so I was just curious where that language was, what they're referring to specifically. Then down towards the end of that paragraph, it's referring to our use of the materials. It says deliverables for the purpose of clients and its affiliated companies' internal business only. Like a little further clarification on that. I mean, generally, we're putting this together to benefit the public, and it would be in the public eye. So I may not understand. Don't claim to understand. So the indemnifying language in 6.5 is still an issue, and I think something that needs to be discussed. I see what they have offered is up to $2 million total. And then there's language that says, or 2 times the fees paid under the agreement. I like they did make it where it's per occurrence. I've seen some language in other agreements between states or counties that have received these funds and their consultants where it's on a per occurrence basis. I like that. One thing that, however this works out, if the language is left in where it says or up to 2 times or 3 times or whatever that amount might be, where it references the total amount of the agreement, we need to make sure that we have language in there that would account for the cumulative total, because I believe we are contemplating the possibility of extensions. Section 7 was new that they put back in. Probably live with that, depending on the outcome of Section 6.5. The termination section, second paragraph reads that Accenture may, upon giving 60 days written notice, terminate the statement of work. I think it would be agreement. And then, and it doesn't matter, but we jump back and forth using the term contract or agreement. Is it one or the other? Does it matter?
That should be an easy correction to go through a document and make that uniform.
So then we get to further along down there, you get into discussion of if the contract is terminated, payment for work that is ongoing at the time of termination. It's third sentence, this agreement shall be paid by the county. And I think we need to include upon the receipt of a valid invoice for the data delivered or ready for delivery upon receipt of a termination notice from the county. And then the remainder of the paragraph is fine, but.
Are you on page 7?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to keep going?
To add receipt.
And I can do this. These are my suggested edits, and without Michael here, I don't know if these are the committee's edits and Chantel responding to them.
Well, so far, the only thing I mean, you haven't made any substantive, contractual changes. You've got a lot of verbiage. And I think as long as you've got standardizing contract and language, I think you're fine. Now, if you've got proposals and the change of the structure of the contract, you should probably submit those in front of everybody, or you could submit them to Chantel and she can forward it to everybody.
Yeah, well,
Either way.
again, Chantel, we use contract, we use agreement and statement of work. We need to just make sure throughout the document the statement of work is not an independent document anymore. It was in the initial proposal. It's just a part of the agreement. So I don't know that there should be too many times that we're referencing the scope of work.
Okay.
There will be a few, but on page 8, the first paragraph there, the last sentence, shall be paid for a deleted portion of the basis of estimated percentage of completion of such portion. We need to just make sure that any reference to work that we're paying them for upon termination mirrors the language that I suggested upon receipt of a valid invoice, etc. Nothing on 9. Page 10.
What section?
18.
Applicable law and disputes.
Yes, sir. Says the parties will make good faith efforts to resolve within 30 days any dispute in connection with the agreement by first escalating it to higher levels of management. There is no higher level of management
That
here.
may be a,
Yeah, so
That's probably standard in all their
Well,
contracts, but
might be, but
that's working with businesses, not with government entities.
then page 11.
Okay, so I don't have
You don't have it?
page numbers on mine, so if you'll tell me
Oh.
which section.
Yeah, Miles, it's
19.
18. Be the second paragraph there. The one beginning, any dispute concerning. Says, shall be referred for determination to the county commissioner in whose district the project is located. I'm a little confused about the intent of that.
I
This
believe
is-
that's language from our standard agreement that carries over into
Okay.
this that needs to be revised.
Yeah, so this group has been designated, or under this would be designated as the program manager.
Right.
So I think in terms of dispute resolution, coming to us for a recommendation to the board would seem to be the logical manner in which to deal with those, because what we're looking at, I believe, are countywide programs designed to aid in the recovery from.
Any
So-
expenditure is gonna be countywide anyway.
Well, exactly, but. All right, Miles, go down to 19.
Go back to that real quick. That one's kind of, shall be referred for determination to the, are you suggesting suggesting language that we place policy and governance committee on behalf of Board of County Commissioners into?
To make a recommendation, just like we, under, what's contemplated is that this group would serve as the program administrator, rather than a single entity, it would be us. That in the event of a dispute, that we would work with Essentra to try to come to a resolution and then make that final recommendation to the BOCC. That's what, as opposed to an individual district, because no one district can bind the board.
So are you clear how to do that, Chantel? How to rework that part of the contract, or whomever is?
I think so. There's also language that says whose decision after approval by the Board of County Commissioners for further consideration and determination. If it would make more sense to say whose recommendation rather than whose decision, is that what you're
Yeah.
asking?
Yeah. If there were a conflict were to arise, this group and Essentia team would work to resolve that. And then this group would make recommendations to the BOCC for a final determination on that resolution. I mean, essentially, it's substituting P&G where it says county commissioner. Yeah.
And removing the whose district the project is.
Right, removing that as well.
That's interesting. All right.
On 19, well, my question really is more applicable once we determine the manner of billing, right? Whether it's the monthly or it's the hourly rate that was submitted. So I may have something on 19.2. Miles, I'm trying to help you, sorry. 19.5, Chantel. Says this contract is null and void unless the amount of the contract has been encumbered by the county and approved for payment by the Board of County Commissioners. We refer to purchase orders, not encumbrances. And at the beginning of the agreement, it says work can't be performed until a purchase order has been issued.
Right.
So we need to make sure that. Additionally, the board, I'm anticipating that this would be a blanket purchase order. So the board will approve the blanket, but they won't approve the lump sum payment all at once. So that makes, it appears as if the board is approving all of the payment at one time.
Okay.
When that won't occur. All right. Same section, Miles, number 8 there. You want to read that for? You want to read it first?
I can tell you that I can. All mine says is $1,065,000.
Okay, so
that's all my paragraph 8 says, and paragraph 7 is blank. Unless you're operating.
Yeah, so paragraph 8.
Do you have a Word document open? Is it a Word document?
No, it's on my Apple.
Okay.
So it's not Word. What's on?
So there's a setting where you can look at proposed changes or you can remove those.
Yeah.
And I think that's the setting. Okay, I see. I have a paper copy if you would like, if that'd be helpful.
That would be helpful.
Page 12.
Okay. Shoot. You ready to go, Miles?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure what the intent of this language is. Again, start off consultant will not perform any services until the consultant receives a purchase order. We've stated that at least once, maybe more.
Right.
Showing the full amount of an obligation created pursuant to this agreement has been encumbered. Well, you can't get a PO unless the full amount's been encumbered. All right. So don't know why we need that. And then it goes on to say an unencumbered amount previously appropriated for such purpose within the budget of Oklahoma County for FY 21-22. These are, now this is my understanding. These funds are not a part of our regular county budget. I think maybe for an internal county purposes, that might be why that's here, but
Right.
I don't know that it's necessary. So the funds that are contemplated to be used to pay for this are ARPA funds. So if we're going to make reference to some funding source, I believe it should be ARPA funds. So if you want to say previously unappropriated ARPA funds, unencumbered ARPA, but again, I just don't think that at the end of the day that this is really necessary.
Well, you are correct. This paragraph 8 comes from the county standard contract. And I believe that their intention of keeping that in there was so that they wouldn't remove much of the county's language that was provided to them.
Okay.
It would be to the county's preference to take anything out in that paragraph or to change it. That's just standard language. There are a couple provisions in this contract too that I know of that imply or indicate ARPA funds will be used to pay for this contract. Some or portions of, if not all of the contract. That language could again be repeated here, or we could change this, much like what you said, to reflect ARPA funds rather than appropriated funds in the county budget.
My understanding of the intent was that this would be paid for using ARPA funds as an allowable expense. Not doing so presents a whole set of questions that would go beyond the BOCC, in my opinion, right? So I think my opinion is it should reflect that it's coming from ARPA funds, but that's my opinion. And again, that really, it's not even necessary. To issue a purchase order, the full sum of the contract has to be encumbered. I'm okay, with the references to amendments and those work not beginning until they've received a purchase order. That's just our standard practice, but okay. So that's some of the issues with that.
So you're just saying that we should signify that it's coming from, that the $1,065,000 is being paid for out of the ARPA funds. Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's easy enough. I don't think that's a big issue.
Yeah. Didn't see anything on 13. You have page numbers now, Miles?
Yes,
Is that right?
sir.
Okay, 14. Paragraph 5, just kind of consultant agrees to provide the county, the federal agency administrator, comptroller of the U.S., any other authorized representatives access to books, etc. If memory serves, maybe Cody or Miles, you'll remember, the state auditor office is the one who is auditing the use of the CARES funds. Is that correct? I don't know whether my assumption would be, but you know what happens when you assume. that SANI has some type of agreement that would make them an agent of the federal government, which they would fall under this paragraph 5, but I don't know if we shouldn't just include the SANI
Okay.
in there. Okay. All right, I think statement of work, so 24 miles. Because the statement of work is not a standalone document, I don't believe that we need paragraph 1, the term. However, I do believe, and I didn't catch it in the agreement. The agreement made references to extensions, et cetera, but the specific language there in paragraph 2, Chantel, in terms, where it
Yes.
says the statement of work may be agreed, I think we need that specific agreement or language in the agreement somewhere.
Yes, I agree.
And I didn't find that. Additionally, as I think I've mentioned on multiple occasions, because we are contemplating extensions, multi-year extensions, much like we've done with some of our other agreements where that is done, there has been a price escalation cap. There's no reference to that in here. There's no discussions of that. Or if their intent is that their rate will remain flat throughout the agreement, we need that in writing as well. So, and then for those listening, that's much like what we've done with our food and our medical and other contracts that we used to have. I think you had indicated that there was additional work that was needed on the scope. Are you waiting on them?
At the last Policy and Governance Committee meeting, there was approval to include tasks as they were listed in the RFP. And there were several tasks of those. And I have requested that of Accenture to incorporate those. I haven't received that back from them. That's one thing that either they're still working on, or I have asked for them to provide that to us. One thing that I did verbally request of them is to either list all the tasks as they are listed in the RFP, all 32 of them, or to make reference that the RFP and everything listed would be incorporated into the agreement as if everything was listed. So I have yet to receive anything from them. Joe, I know that you and I have talked about this. It is in a Word document in the RFP that we could plug into the agreement also. If that's the desire of the committee, I can easily transfer that data over and incorporate it in as a 3.2 or most of the tasks are listed under 3.1.
I like the idea, Chantel, what you mentioned about incorporating by reference the RFP. And I've actually got some language that I think would accomplish that. That I'm happy to provide you. What I think in looking at this a little bit longer, I think incorporating the RFP and those tasks that we sought assistance on, is good. So I would rework the scope.
Okay,
I have language there. I would leave in what is 3.1. Well, actually, I would rework that. My suggestion would be, as it's currently written, the 3.1, the first 3 bullet points, or the first 2 bullet points would be removed. And that we would utilize develop projects or programs, and then those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then that we would have a new paragraph, if you will, 3.2, something along the lines to meet the objectives in 3.1 above Accenture will. And then that is where we could have bullet point by bullet point what it is we're seeking, or just insert the RFP as a whole.
okay.
And I have, or could have, suggestions on either way.
What's your reason for getting rid of bullet point 1 and 2?
They'd be incorporated in 3.2, in the new 3.2.
RFP language?
Yeah, it mirrors the RFP language, but the primary purpose is to develop projects and programs that are requested or may be undertaken by the county or the trust thereof that are consistent with the guidelines. And then they do the 5 things, and then every task would be relevant to doing one of those 5 things above. But, and then, so beyond the scope, there's the question of fees and expenses. And I would say, rather, as we're still continuing to talk about fees and expenses, it's probably not appropriate that that's in the scope of work. It should probably be a part of the agreement itself. So those are just a few of, well, most of, but other than a complete rewrite of the scope. And if the goal is to hit March the 7th with this, I think it's pretty evident that all of us have worked to try to get this done, but we need to move quickly because it'll still have to go to our legal for review, correct?
Correct.
How quickly we turning this stuff around, Chantel? Be able to
I can,
changes, and they're responding quickly, or I saw your email about the fee structure.
generally, I get a response from Accenture well within 24 hours. If there's a lot of updates to be done, usually those can be worked out by the end of the next business day. And I know that from my conversation with Accenture this morning, as well as Friday and Thursday, they're on notice that they know that they're wanting to get this done quickly also. I don't know what time this meeting would be recessed to for tomorrow, but I would hope that we could get another clean version for that meeting.
It doesn't necessarily have to be tomorrow. If they need, I mean, if we pushed it to Wednesday, might give them more time to, it'd also give time for District 2 to weigh in and find out what we've discussed. You could give them an updated version of some of the things that we just discussed. And we can move from there.
Yeah, so in my mind, the three outstanding issues that we've got to come to resolution on are the scope of work, indemnification, and the payment structure. Is that,
That's my understanding as well.
and then getting the agreement into an acceptable format. Yeah.
Yes.
Identification, scope of work,
Payments.
structure. That was what your email was about this morning.
Yes. So at the last Policy and Governance Committee, we moved to have them propose what their billable hours would look like as they proposed in the RFP. And they put a little bit of clarification in this.
Versus the flat fee that they're proposing.
They are definitely, they strongly prefer and suggest the flat monthly fee. So I'm hoping to continue to work with them to understand better why they want that so badly, and also if there's a way to meet in the middle. If there's one particular component that they feel like they cannot bill hourly, which is my understanding, to better understand that, to be able to put something in the agreement to show all to you guys.
See if I can find it again later. Pricing for our scope of work is based on our use of a federal funds management capability and Center for Excellence delivery model, which makes it sound like it's a standard thing.
I think it might be a program of sorts that they utilize.
That's what I'm wondering.
They're not sure how to convert that into the billable hours.
Is that a government program? What is that?
Right. Not sure. I know that it is designed and developed by Accenture. Our RFP requested that their hourly rates be inclusive of all materials, incidentals, personnel wages in those hourly rates, which my understanding would be that those incidentals programs and such would be included in those hourly rates. I'm trying to understand if they're under that same understanding of the RFP as well.
Okay. Anything else?
No. I'll, independently of this group, so that Chantel has an idea at least where I'm at, I'll give her what I'm thinking with regard to the scope, and then she's free to do what she wants with it. Bring it back, copy, tell me I'm clueless, which was
If all the things discussed are agreeable, we can at least put it in another draft where everyone can look at it visually.
I think when you would.
Here, let me do it this way. I'm going to firm up my suggestions to the scope of work. either a complete rework or modifications to what is currently in the document, I'll get those and I will give them to Chantel so that she will have them when we meet again and we can discuss them as my suggestion.
Yes.
Like we just did with these other changes.
No, I think that's perfectly acceptable. Okay.
So we're thinking Wednesday, Moss?
Yeah, probably ought to be careful with that. Is
Wednesday morning is better for me.
well, that's good. Want to do 9 a.m. Wednesday?
That's good. Yeah, 9 a.m. works.
So I'll make a motion that we recess this policy and governance meeting to this room at 9 a.m. on the, is that the 2nd? Yeah, March 2nd.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion clearly passes. We stand in recess.
Thank you.